Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be going over the LGBTQ+ releases for the month of November. We are definitely winding down for the end of the year. August, September, October tend to be bigger month for releases, and November and December tend to be smaller months because everybody was trying to get out their product before Christmas shopping begins. So definitely a lot less books this month. I also noticed that a couple books that were supposed to release in November got pushed back a week into December. So again, in general, not as much stuff coming out this month, and most of it is going to be very heavy towards the beginning of the month, again, to beat the Christmas rush. But we're all about quality over quantity anyways, and there are a lot of really fun and interesting books coming out next month, so I can't wait to share them with you so you can anticipate them. So let's get started with the first week of November, which is going to be November 4th. And so we're going to start off with The Son of Morning by Akwaeke Emezi. This is an adult fantasy novel. It's supposed to be romance or romantasy leaning, and it is listed as queer, but it looks like it might be an MF pairing just from the cover. The one sentence blurb for this is, from the New York Times bestselling author Akwaeke Emezi comes a steamy paranormal romance set in the Black South. It looks like our main character grew up raised by a clan of Black women in the South, and there's some type of secret surrounding her. She's always had this hollow kind of feeling inside of her that she thought she was just going to have to live with, and of course something is about to happen with that. I think this is interesting because it's romantasy, but it's paranormal, so kind of going back to like romantasy's true roots, which is like the paranormal, urban paranormal genre. So very intrigued by this. It also looks like it has sprayed edges, so it's going to be like a bigger release. The next book for November 4th is going to be Deadly Ever After by Brittany Johnson. This is a young adult fantasy. It also is romance leaning, and it is sapphic. And the blurb for this is, two dead princesses must find true love's kiss to bring them back to life in this heart-stopping romantic fantasy debut. And so it looks like one of our main characters has always been like quiet, delicate, obedient, but is murdered on her wedding night, and then the mystery of that begins. So something obviously is bringing these girls back to life, where they're either going to solve their murder or they're going to be like taking revenge. So that's very intriguing. The next book we have is Girls Who Play Dead by Joelle Wellington. This is a young adult mystery thriller. It's listed as contemporary, and it is listed as queer or sapphic. So the blurb for this one is, two siblings investigate the murder of a friend only to unearth even more deadly mysteries in their small town. If you are still on a mystery thriller kick from October, this might be for you. The next book for November 4th is going to be Fade Into You by Amber Smith and Sam Geller. This is young adult romance. It is also historical, and it is listed as sapphic. And the blurb for this is, when Jessa and Bird join forces to break up their best friend's toxic relationship, they start to fall for each other in this swoony 90s romance. And it looks like these two girls normally don't have that much in common, but trying to get their friends separated, they begin to cross paths and find a lot of commonalities. I'm very intrigued by historical fiction set in the 90s, making me feel old, but I'm kind of interested in this one because I do want more historical fiction, so very intriguing there. The next book we have is Beautiful Brutal Bodies by Linda Chang. This is book 2 in a YA horror series. This might be a duology, I'm not quite sure, but very intrigued. It's also listed as contemporary, horror, like I said, and LGBT. So the blurb for this one is, full of skin-crawling folk horror and sapphic romance, this feral fairy tale and standalone follow-up to the gorgeous Gruesome's Faces follows a reclusive songstress and her bodyguard who must unravel the occult mysteries of their past to escape from a cursed island. It's a very intriguing premise, not sure if it's fantasy leaning in some way. It doesn't seem to be contemporary, and yet it is called contemporary. I don't know. Intrigued to say the least. The next book we have is Where There's Room for Us by Haley Kyoko. This again is coming out November 4th, and it is listed as a young adult romance historical fiction novel with sapphic representation. And this is a young adult novel set in a reimagined 1880s Victorian England where everyone is free to love who they choose. The reimagined historical fiction is always really interesting to me because without like gender roles and like societal expectations, it's hard to have the fun parts of Victorian novels, which is like the manners and kind of like yearning stuff that comes comes along with like manners and expectations, so I'm intrigued by that. Someone has to read it and tell me how they handle that. The next book I have is Hear Her Howl by Kim Darroze. This is a young adult fantasy and it's listed as queer, and the blurb for this is, as fiercely feminist as it is hopeful, this speculative sapphic YA romance is simultaneously a modern day war cry and a PSA that there is a wolf who slumbers within us all. Inside me there are two wolves. As like a wolf girly growing up, I'm intrigued. Am I saying, is that TMI, that I was a kind of a wolf kid growing up? Like real wolves. Like I watched documentaries about the Yellowstone wolves. Like, I was kind of obsessive about it. Anyway, so what I'm getting from the longer synopsis is that our main character was caught kissing a girl, sent to an all-girls Catholic school, and then some type of spell is put on her and a bunch of other people, probably getting changed into a wolf, which is definitely not the respectable young woman that her mother wants. So very intrigued there. And the last book we have for November 4th is going to be Palver by Brian Washington. This is adult fiction, contemporary, and LGBT. And the premise for this is a life-affirming novel of family, mending, and how we learn to love from the award-winning Brian Washington. Okay, it looks like our main character is living in Tokyo as an English tutor, and they are drinking the night away at a gay bar. And then he gets entangled with a married man. It looks like it's dealing with a lot of homophobic family trauma stuff, and then a lot of relationship stuff. So very intrigued there. But now we're going to head into November 11th, starting with Lucky Seed by Justina Hong. And this is adult fiction contemporary, and it is queer or LGBT. And the premise for this is the billionaire Sun clan of Greater Los Angeles is your typical American family with power-struggling aunties, emasculated uncles, scheming cousins, and scandalous secrets, and a fortune teller on retainer. But at the end of each combative day, the Suns are chained together with golden handcuffs, whether they like it or not. So something speculative, fabulous going on. Definitely going to be about like family power and family drama. Very intrigued there. But the next book is Next Time Will Be Our Turn by Jessica Q. Sutanotu. This is adult romance historical fiction, and it's contemporary, and it's listed as sapphic. The premise goes for this one: a grandmother tells her granddaughter about her twisty and often surprising journey to who she is now in this sweeping story. It looks like our main character, Izzy Chan, is dreading going to her family's Chinese New Year's celebration, and then her glamorous grandmother walks in and shakes everything up at the party. So it looks like we'll get Izzy's story along with like her grandmother and what she's recounting. So very intrigued by that. The next book we have is The Silver Book by Olivia Lang. This is adult fiction, historical fiction, and LGBT. And the premise for this is art, power, desire, and illusion collide in a hypnotic new novel by Olivia Lang, set in the months leading up to the murder of Pier Paolo Pasolini in 1975. So we have a young artist and a Italian magician. It looks like they're living in Venice and starting some type of relationship before this big historical moment. But I'm always interested in a historical fiction from a time period I don't personally know really well, so that is really intriguing. The next book we have is Brigades and Bread Knives by Travis Baltrey. This is an adult fantasy, and it is listed as LGBT. And this is a new adventure in the Legends and Lattes series. And this book follows Fern, who is a side character from the series. It looks like Fern is a traveling bookseller, and it's like their adventures. So I'm not sure if this is like sequel, prequel to the series, but it is a continuation. Next up for November 11th, we have My Roommates from Hell by Cale Dittrey. This is young adult fantasy. It's listed as romance and contemporary as well. And I know exactly who wants to read this because my BFF is such a big fan of this author. But the blurb for this is a swoon-worthy YA rom-com about a ambitious college student whose plans get derailed when he discovers his roommate is the Prince of Hell. So it looks like we're dealing with like demon roommate, real actual demon roommate. So that should be a riotous time. And the last book for November 11th is Always Rains Here, Volume 1 by Hazel Ann Bell. This is a YA graphic novel, and it is listed as LGBT or Aquilin. And this has already actually been published. I believe it started as a webtoon. I'm not sure if it was on the webtoon platform, but it was a webtoon. It has been previously published, but it looks like this is a new edition that is coming out. And it looks like this is like the misadventures of two awkward teenagers kind of fumbling through some unrequited romances. Getting into November 18th, our one and only book is going to be Leave It on the Tracks by Margot Fisher. This is a young adult contemporary sports with LGBT or queer representation, and it looks like this is a moving debut about healing, self-acceptance, and the queer first love set on a roller derby team. I love a sports story. I love roller derby in concept. I don't know much about it, but I like it in concept, so I'm very intrigued by this, and it looks like our main character, Morgan, survived a fire that killed her father in their beloved roller skating rink, and now she's moved to Portland to be with half-sister. She's barely out of the closet, struggling with this new family, and just a lot of anxiety and frustrations around everything that's going on in her life. But going into our last week of November, November 25th, we have As Many Souls as Stars by Natasha Siegel. This is listed as adult fantasy and romance leaning with LGBT/sapphic characters. And the blurb for this one goes, for fans of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, an inventive, romantic, speculative novel about two women, a witch and an immortal demon, who make a Faustian bargain and are drawn into the cat and mouse chase across multiple timelines. It looks like we start in 1592 with a girl who is like trapped in her home and is trying to pursue magic and then getting in with this demon. I'm very intrigued by this. Honestly, I was never really interested in Addie LaRue, so I never read it, but this seems more of my personal alley, so very intrigued. And the last book for this week, and the last book in general, is going to be A Heart of Crimson Flames by A.K. Munford. This is the third book in this series. It's adult fantasy, romance, and it's listed as queer. And it looks like this is the third and final book in this trilogy, which is called the Golden Court trilogy. I've never heard of this series, but the cover is beautiful, so I'm very intrigued. And the kind of blurb we have for it is Wolfpack politics, heart-pounding action, dark magic, newfound family dynamics, and the shifter romance come to an explosive climax and this incredible conclusion of blah, blah, blah. So, not sure if it's paranormal, if it's more fantasy leaning, but very intrigued. Maybe I have to check out the first book in this series. Yes, these are all the books that are coming out in November with LGBT representation. Again, not a ton, but there are some really fun and interesting titles I know a lot of people are looking forward to, but hopefully I also keyed you in on some new titles that you haven't heard of. Doing these videos, I've just found so many titles I want to read, and I haven't read any of them yet, but I'm so excited at some point to like add these to my list and like get into them because I found so many titles that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. But if you've read any of these, if you're gearing up to read any of these, let me know your thoughts. I would love to know and discuss them. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading.